Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle D, or Coach Danni D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas, and I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danni D, or Danielle D, the owner of Workflow, where I'm helping small businesses play big by enhancing their luxury brand. I have a guest here today I'm very, very super excited about. I have Angela Hawkins, and she is the owner of Bamblu. And it's one of my favorite lines. She is a sleep solution specialist. Is one of my favorite lines. And if y'all follow me on Instagram, y'all see me in the pajamas. Y'all see me post when I get excited when I get them in the mail. So I'm very excited for her to be here. I'm going to let her give her own introduction because I always love to hear people excited about their business and their industry. So Angela, if you'll let us know a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the Bamblu love. My name is Angela Hawkins. I'm the owner and founder of Bamblu. Bamblu is a sleep company. We offer products that are luxury products from bedding to pajamas. We like to say we offer products that give you the rest you need so you can live the life you want. And our primary products are made of bamboo. So if you have never felt bamboo, you'll get a taste of it in this podcast, in this episode, because we're going to try to explain to you just some of the feels that you get when you open up that package. Like, it's the feel of the fabric is incredible. And it's one of the things that people brag about the most is, oh my God, when I felt it, it just felt amazing. From the bedding to the pajamas, both are equally as soft and luxurious. It makes a difference what you sleep in. And a lot of times I talk about the softness and the feel and the luxury, but what I really like to drive home to people is the importance of good quality sleep and investing in that good quality sleep so that you can live the life you want.
I absolutely love it. Y'all know I am team pajamas. I am team sleep. I'm team you need to get rest. And I know that as business owners, we're not always promoted that. We're, promoted the hustle and the grind, and it does not have to be that way. You don't have to live that way. And I would be remiss if I moved on without talking about the feel. When I got my first pair of pajamas, I'm like, ooh, and I just kept touching them. And then I was like, okay, now I have to go put them on. It was like the middle of the day and I had to stop and put them on. I put them on and I'm sitting on the sofa and I'm trying to work on something. And my husband's working from home right now as well. And he just reached over and he was like, I'm not trying to be any kind of way, but
I'm not trying to interrupt your workflow.
Right. He's like, but let me. It was like this texture. He's like, so when you say the feel, I just need y'all to know there is definitely just a next level feel to the pajamas, and you don't realize that you haven't had pajamas before. Like, you wore something, but they weren't pajamas. Like, I just want you to know that. So before I get, starstruck and off task, I wanna bring it back. So our topic today is how to focus your creative energy. And the reason we chose that topic, we're both creative professionals and we know what that's like, to be in that industry, to have all the ideas, but then have to focus that in so that you can be productive and so that you can be strategic in your business. So that's the topic. I know you gave us a little overview, but tell us your story as a creative professional. Like, how did you come to being an entrepreneur?
Right. So I think for my path, it was a bit, it was almost dual path. So my degree, my first college degree is in accounting. 22 years of my experience in corporate was in finance, but I always had the desire to release my creative energy. Within a couple of years of getting my first degree, I went back to school to get a degree in interior design because I knew that ultimately my path would require me to be more structured in that area. And I think being an accountant and having the finance background gave me the appreciation for that structure, and realizing that having a creative outlet, having a creative career doesn't release me from the necessity of having structure and organization. And so, so when people ask me, what brain are you, left brain, right brain? I'm both. I'm both, and I've operated in both. I prefer who I am when I operate in my creativity. I prefer to, to let that flow, because when I don't, that's when I feel like I'm stifled. I feel like I'm not my authentic self. But at the same time, I have an appreciation for what I've done in the finance, in the accounting sector. And it helps me in business because I have that foundation where people get a chance to really see what I can do with a business from the growth and scale perspective, and not just from the creative perspective. But so I always tell people it's dual path. It's hard sometimes because you gotta balance it just right so that you can operate in both. Or sometimes I do find that letting one go for a minute so that I can be hyper creative and be able to achieve the desired outcome that I want to do, that I want to get. Or I have to be ultra analytical so that I can get the work done and be able to strategize what the path needs to look like. So it's an interesting dichotomy.
And I love that about you because I am that same strange bird that has both of those things. So I absolutely love business, but I've always had this like really creative side as well. So I totally understand what you're saying about that balance between the two. And, learning to, for me, it has been a lot of learning to let them talk to one another and let them come into some sort of agreement so that I'm not so analytical that I don't move forward, but I'm not so wildly like creative that I'm not being thoughtful.
Mhm.
And, just making sure that those two things marry each other well. And, it has helped me to become more creative in teaching about business. And so trying to teach that in a way that, people who I know have that more creative tendency can kind of understand. Like, I know that we got to keep it short and digestible because that creative mind wanders fast. that attention span is short. And I know it, like with me, somebody can be halfway through a story and I'm like, come on, like, get to it, because my mind, the clock is ticking on that.
Yep. There's gonna be a squirrel running by at any minute.
It's about to jump. It's about to jump somewhere else, and I don't want to be rude, but that you it's a different personality.
Right.
It's just kind of balancing those two things is always been interesting for me, but it's also been very productive in the sense of like, I've been able to navigate things because I have both, kind of treasure chests to pull from. So
Right. I think for me, what I've realized is being that I am so, I do have a short attention span when it comes to some things, but I am very deep and analytical in that, and with that short attention span, I can't do a multitude of things at the same time. It has to be very focused, and it has to have a beginning and an end, so so it's like, okay, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this until it gets to here, and then I'm going to move on to something else. And that tends to work better for me than to say, even when people think, oh, you're creative, so you can have a business with all of these different facets. I can, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be successful at it, because I'm going to want to look at all the facets at the same time. So if I create a business that operates in this lane, I can run it and run the heck out of it and do a really good job, but I need to be in that lane. I can't keep looking on these other lanes. So that's an interesting byproduct of being creative and analytical is, you can do all the things, but you probably shouldn't.
Right. No, definitely. And I think, one thing that I've learned over time is knowing yourself and learning yourself. And the more that you know about yourself, the better you operate, regardless of what your personality is. Because for me, I know I have shiny object syndrome. And so, just like you're saying, I know I have to focus, because, that analytical side of me is like, this is what we are working on. Go tell your creative friend.
Go tell your creative coworker.
Look, go tell your creative coworker. She can look at whatever she wants. But if it doesn't align with this structure that I set up, we're not doing that. And if she wants to do it for a hobby, that's fine. But in this business, this is what we're doing. And so it's like working those two things against each other. And for me, I think, like you said, sometimes you have to drop the one for the other. When I know that my mind is in one mode, I let that one shine and do what it needs to do. And then when that other mode kicks in, I let it do what it needs to do, because I know the other thing I've learned is I can't force it. Like if I'm not in a space to sit and write, it's not coming out. Right. But when that mood does hit me, I can write a whole novel. But it's just, I have to know, okay, creative girl didn't come to work today. She checked out.
She's off chasing squirrels.
Yeah, chasing squirrels and rolling around in glitter. But but analytic person is here and ready to create a strategic plan. She is ready. So let me get everything I can out of her. And then when creative girl comes back, I'm gonna look at what analytic girl did, and I'm gonna say, okay, sprinkle some glitter on that. Now it's done.
Exactly. So you see, you understand me.
I get you. I totally get you. I absolutely do.
That's hilarious. Rolling around in glitter. I can see it. I can see it.
Creative girl always got glitter on her somewhere. Somewhere.
The glitter is strong with this one.
Yes. I'm like, look, you're gonna find a piece of glitter. You're gonna find a sparkle or a stream or something. You're gonna find it. It's just gonna happen. Yeah. So how did you ultimately venture into entrepreneurship?
I would say that it has a lot to do with my first job. One of my first jobs. I attended a retirement party for one of my accounting coworkers, and everyone was like, "Hey, 30 years!" And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, she's been doing this for 30 years." And
I'm laughing because I have a similar story. Go ahead.
And by that point, I had already decided that this was monotonous. The cyclical process of being in accounting and finance was starting to get to me. And by that point, I was only a couple of years in. And I said, I said to myself, well, it's got to be something other than this. Like, I took a turn into auditing, where I could write audit reports. And for me, that was creative, because I got a chance to go and do the work, come back and tell the story. So
Right.
it had an element of creative, of creativity to it. But I was looking for another job similar to that at the time, but I wasn't in that job at all. And it was obvious. So when I went to her retirement party, I was just like, I have to do something different. Like, this is not for me. So that's when I started looking at what I heard for the first time around then: do something that you would do regardless if you get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I know what that is, because I was designing people's houses left and right for no money.
Right. Right. So you already, like you said, I got the paid for, not paid for, check box checked. Now I got to get paid for it.
Right. I said I could do that. I know I could do it for no, and not get paid for it, because I love it. And I've already been doing that. So if I could turn this into a paycheck, imagine what I could do for my quality of life. And I remember at that point, I got a lot of naysayers, especially people that knew what my degree was in and what my experience was in. They were just like, oh, that's a pipe dream, and no one really makes money as a designer. And I kept saying, no, I think they do. So I sought out people that were in design and that were doing exactly what I wanted to do. I asked them questions. They talked to me about legitimizing the business, being able to go back and get a degree or a certification, and also finding a niche, which I think, again, goes back to that you can do it all, but you really need to be, forward thinking in what aspect you want to focus on. So I went and I got a business license. I went back to school, like I mentioned, went back to school for interior design, and I started an interior design firm. Now, I did that as well as my daytime job for a long time, not really understanding what the scale method was, to be able to, because in my mind, doing it all, doing every aspect of the design job was how you did the business. And I didn't understand, I didn't really understand bringing in the trades, because in my mind, I wasn't legitimized yet. I was still trying to work it out. So I was trying to do everything. So I was just like, well, there's no way I can scale when I'm doing all the work.
Right.
So then at some point I started bringing in tradesmen, and I started realizing that the end product was just so much better, because I have the tile person doing the tile instead of me. I have the painter doing the paint instead of me. I have the seamstress making the drapes instead of me. And everything just had their expertise on it with my expert design. And it just made sense. It started to come together. And I was like, this is how I scale. And then I started adding, not just one job at a time, not just one job per quarter. I was adding more jobs and getting them done. And I said, okay, I could do this. So then I started looking at what more could I do? So I wrote a business plan on being able to open a design gallery, because I had gotten into wholesaling furniture at this point.
Okay.
And I was just like, okay, now I know how to wholesale furniture. I could actually open up a gallery and wholesale furniture and accessories and do my design work at the same time. And that was, it was an award-winning business plan. I knew, by this point, it had been 7 years that I had been doing design. So I was like, I pretty much got this, so let me go ahead and step out on faith, took some money that I'd saved and created a design gallery. And then a month later, the recession hit. So it was just like, everything that in my mind, I was just like, wait a minute, I did everything the right way. I wrote a business plan. I saved money. I learned, I got the degrees, like I had all of the things, but there was an element I couldn't control, which was the economy.
Right.
So what ended up happening was it created an opportunity for me to then learn a new level of the low, where the economy could go, and then also convinced me that I wasn't ready yet to be out on my own, because I didn't know how to ebb and flow with how the economy was running. I didn't know where the money was going to come from if it didn't come from the customer. I didn't know what to do with the inventory when the customers weren't buying. So I ended up going back to corporate, and my intention was to go back to corporate to learn more, because there was all the corporations, every company in the U.S. had to adjust and adapt to what was happening with the economy. So what a great place for me to learn about it, than to go back to the source and get some, knowledge. Okay, so I went back to corporate so I can learn more. I knew that there was going to be an opportunity for me to be in positions with Coca-Cola that would allow me to see the full trajectory of the business and how the business adjusted to the different changes in the economy. It's a great place to learn. I always tell people that, don't give up your day job until you've gotten all that you can from that day job, including the learning. So when I went back, the one thing I did take back with me though was a little bit of trauma fear from what had transpired with the economy in my business. So I think it took me a little bit longer to come out than I had anticipated. I kept kind of making excuses as to why I needed to stay in corporate. But the reality was I was afraid of what could happen again. But that entrepreneurial bug just would never leave me. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who I had decided I was going to go into marketing, in corporate. I was going to go into marketing because this was going to be that creative outlet I needed, and I can stay in the stability of corporate, but that didn't turn out to be true. And I think most people that knew me, family, friends, close coworkers, kind of knew that there was still something else kind of itching at the surface, and I was going to need to express it in some way or another. So someone had asked me if I wanted to attend a seminar with them, and it was like a weekend thing, and it was not a big deal. It was like, hey, just come if you're interested, but she didn't really tell me what it was. And I walked in, and it's a room full of entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs who were starting, at different levels of business, but most people in that room were starting their businesses and, somewhere, kind of experienced in it, but still kind of looking for a path to success and a path for growth. And I just remember the energy in the room was so palpable. I just knew that I was in the right space, and I knew that this was going to be what transformed me back into entrepreneurship. And that's exactly what happened. I went in, didn't really know what my next path was going to look like. I knew it wasn't going to be interior design as it was before, but it was going to have an element of creativity to it. But I also knew that I really wanted to solve a problem. I wanted to be a necessity in somebody's home. So what I ended up doing was walking away with a couple of really good ideas, and went back to when I had interior design, when I had the gallery, what really resonated with me. And it was the fabrics. It was being able to have my hands on the fabrics, have my hands in the fabrics, designing, designs for the bed. I would make creative or custom bedding for people as part of some of my services. I said, yeah, that's where I want to focus. Well, what I didn't realize was at the same time, I was also in my personal life trying to solve my husband's sleep issues. So at one point, they all kind of came together when I figured out for him that it was the fabrics. It wasn't the pillows. It wasn't the mattresses. It wasn't the detergents. It was the actual fabric that we were sleeping in that was causing him to have allergic reactions and causing him to sweat and overheat at night. And when I was able to solve that for him, it all kind of came together. I want to do bedding. I want to do something that's solving a problem. Sleep deprivation is a huge problem. So why not focus on that as my primary product? And why not focus on that as a solution to sleep deprivation in the US? And it all kind of started coming together from there. So it has been quite the trek. But it was, everything kind of aligned to make this the path that I took at the time that I took it. I joined after that event with all of that, entrepreneurial electricity in the room, the creativity in the room. I ended up joining a mastermind from that event, and that mastermind has changed the way that I do business. When the economy started to, tumble again, when we got into the pandemic, a lot of that trauma fear came back, and I started thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again, a recession, I'm going to end up losing my business again. I just got started. But then I took a step back and I said, no, things are different. Like now I'm a part of a community. Now I have, a stronger understanding of what the economy can do. So let me figure out what my pivots need to look like before they come so that I can then navigate through it. And it has changed how I look at, I looked at the pandemic as an opportunity for me to get real narrow on, on what I was doing, get real narrow on what I was spending, and then get real specific in who I was serving and why. And it made all the difference. So completely different outcome from, this economic, change to last. So.
I love that. I love hearing people's entrepreneur story, like, because it's always, because if it's in you, it's going to pull at you. It's going to, pull you in that direction. But also it's just the passion is in that story. The passion is always in the story. Like you see, as you tell certain parts of the story, you're going to see somebody's eyes light up. You're going to see, so I know some of you are listening via podcast and you can't see that, but when you get on YouTube and you look at it, you see people's, like, you just see that love, because as entrepreneurs, and especially creative entrepreneurs, we have a love for what we do.
Oh yeah.
And so
we're sensitive about it.
Yes, definitely. My husband teases me. We've been in places, several times where like he may be across the room, but he was like, you were just talking to that person about business, weren't you? Because he can see, he was like, you have a whole different look about you when you talk about it. Like he's like,
I know exactly that look.
I can tell. And so I love that you shared your story with us. I think the big takeaways I got from the story was, one, learn in every aspect of your life. A lot of times people will put entrepreneurship over, working a job or working in corporate. I kind of feel the same way as you. I've learned so much from my experience in corporate that I bring to being a business owner. Absolutely. That I feel like it makes me a better business owner. So learn from that. Also, just the idea of, let that bankroll you until you are in a position.
Oh yeah, my primary investor was Coca-Cola.
Until you're in a position to, because, I left my job and, because of that, a lot of people gravitate towards me about, leaving their job and I'm gonna quit. And I'm like, what is your plan? Like,
and who's going to invest in you if you want to invest in yourself? And that's really what it comes down to is, when you leave your job, you're leaving your benefits, you're leaving a weekly or biweekly paycheck. And I know that, a lot of times people are like, well, I can't do this and do that at the same time. But only when you truly can't do that and do that at the same time, only when you truly can see that the day job is hindering your ability to scale your business, should you leave. And that day job, that paycheck from that day job should be inconsequential when you leave. Like, correct. If I stay here, I'm making less money because I'm staying here. But I tell you what, I would say to people on that second go round, I would say to people, I'm only leaving when they put me out. And I would say it as a joke, but I was dead serious. And people would say, oh, no, you gotta go, you gotta go. And it just so happened that 6 months after I started the business, we went through a major layoff, a major reorg, and my job was part of that reorganization. And even though I had said it, I was hurt when it happened, because I was just like, it wasn't my decision. But what the blessing in that was it wasn't my decision, but it was God's plan. And they gave me a check to leave, which was then invested into the business.
Correct. So, yeah. I mean,
and they gave me a year's worth of medical, which also gave me a reprieve from having to worry about, my husband at the time. He was in a job where his medical wasn't as good as mine, and so I said, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that for a year. And I don't have to worry about a paycheck for, I think it was 6 or 8 months or whatever it was, but it made a difference. It made a huge difference to the mindset when it was time for me to go. It was like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. And now when I get up in the morning, my first thought isn't how am I going to do both at the same time? It's going to be, how do I make money today?
Right. And I think that that's beautiful. I think that that's something that people really need to think about when you're making that transition. Like you said, when that job falls off, it shouldn't phase you because you needed that job. Of
Right.
course, when you get laid off, there's that sting and it's like, okay, what? Like,
yeah, you have to grieve that process, and
right.
that's understandable.
But it shouldn't be a thing of because I think a lot of times people say I can't do it all, but I don't. If you're not so busy in the business because of your income, because of income producing activities, then you're not too busy in the business. Like, a lot of times it's because you're trying to get it together. And that's about planning and strategy. That's not, if you haven't turned that corner to where it's being able to replace that income, unless you just a adventurous person, don't leave those people jobs.
You like living on the edge.
Look, just keep going. Just keep going to the people's job until something else, until you reach that point. Right, and right. For me, the job hit different once I had a plan.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
The things that I may not have wanted to go and do, I was like, well, let me hurry up and finish doing this real quick because I had a plan, and that plan gives you a different energy about, it's like, okay, I'm working towards it and I see this progress. Then I don't feel like that defeat of, oh, well, I can't get my business going because this is in the way. You can't get your business going because you haven't created that strategic plan yet.
Exactly. Amen.
Like
that plan will change the
taking
game.
the job away is not going to change that. It's just going to make that a lot more stressful because now you have bills and you're struggling to figure out the business part.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us in the creative fields get caught up in that. We get caught up in, making things pretty and doing the things that we enjoy doing, but not looking at the strategic component of it. And I think that it's a lot of the reasons why it's harder to get started in a creative venture because, we don't have that, that outlet or that understanding of that, that part of the business. But and that's why I think being a part of a community makes all the difference, because there's nothing wrong with being 100% creative. There's a lane for that as well, but then that means that you have to know what you're missing. You have to know what elements you need to bring into the business. So if that's a partner or an employee, or just a coach, something has to give in order to make that business successful. And what it typically is you don't have to give up yourself, and you don't have to force yourself to be that, but you have to bring in that bench strength so that the company can survive.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, you just, people will hear me say this all the time. That's not my ministry.
I say it too.
That is not my ministry, like,
yes, I say the same
if
thing.
It falls outside of my lane, it falls outside of my lane. And, I love to learn, so I will learn about it, but I know where my lines are drawn, and I'm like, that is so not my ministry. So I'm going to, pass that over to the person that, I'm a creative. My husband's an engineer. He gets to talking, and I'm like,
yeah. And that's why you called him when the Zoom didn't work.
Right. So we had a little technical difficulty, and I was just like, so can you come and see about? And when we put this to air and he has to edit, you heard me say when he has to edit, because I know my strong suits and I know what my strong suits aren't. And We have to learn to be more open to help, and that not being a sign of weakness. That's actually a strength when you're able to say, this is not my lane.
Right.
This is not my lane. And, you know, I work with a lot of business owners and a lot of people who are, you know, prospects, but we're not that point of clients. And they are, you know, trying so hard to force their, you know, the square peg in the round hole. It's just, if that's not your thing, stop killing yourself about it. It's somebody's thing, and that somebody can help you to get to the next level. And that somebody can lovingly sit you down sometimes and say, look,
we need you to focus and stop looking at the squirrels.
Right. I know you won't put glitter on this girl, but look, they did not pay glitter money. So they don't get glitter.
And they can't have a bow.
And they can't have a bow either, because they didn't pay glitter money and they didn't pay bow money. And when you put the glitter in the bow on it,
and we would say,
you're
but
spending
it looks so
your
much
own
better with
money
the glitter
to
in the
do
bow.
it. Right.
Exactly.
You are spending your own money to put the glitter in the bow on there. So
exactly.
How about you reel it back and leave that off, or you can tell them that that's an option and they can upgrade.
Yes. Ooh, girl, you said a whole word right there.
But my picture is gonna look, it's gonna look just how they paid for it to look.
Like, you just don't put that one on your site. That's okay.
Right. But the thing is that it's not that it doesn't look good. It's just not that vision that you had. And my lovely engineering husband has had to say to me times when I'm just fussing with something and I just won't let it go. And he's like, it's perfect. His wise words to me that I replay in my head all the time: nobody saw the vision you saw in your head.
Ooh, girl.
No one else saw it. So
I think they all have a meeting. All the non-creatives have a meeting. Non-creatives that live with creatives, they all have a meeting, and then they all get the words that they're going to need to say to us. Because I swear to God.
Look, I know that you thought that one balloon should be like 3 inches to the left. Nobody else saw that, and they did not. They see the whole.
I swear to God, this is the same conversation. I had a balloon design I showed my husband, and I was like, look. And I mean, I did a whole video, a movie from the first balloon to the 100th balloon, and I had them all laid out. And he's like, oh, that looks so nice. I was like, yeah, but look, you see that little spot right there? I should have put a balloon in there.
He has literally pulled me off of a job. Like come on. Like, don't touch
another thing.
Additional balloon. And I'm like, but
that's my reputation.
Look, he said, because you're going to touch that one and that one going to move, and then you're going to be here all night. He said, just let it go. And then it's like, because we have that attachment to our work, it's like, I hate it. And then I look at it 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh my God, that was
beautiful.
But that's just our nature. And it's again, just getting back to the topic, that's focusing that creative energy, like, to realize we're creatives, but we're also business owners.
Right.
So what tips or what ways do you use to try to focus that energy in? Because sometimes, that creative side is a wild child.
I had to hire somebody. I told you. I had to hire somebody. I hired a strategist, and she, and it was funny because I think in the beginning, you always, I can't afford to bring somebody in. But what I had to do was really look at what could I afford not to bring somebody in.
And answer it right there.
I was getting stuck too often. I wasn't meeting my marks in order to scale. And it was because I was missing that person that could implement the visions that I had for the business. So I reached out to someone that I knew would fit perfectly in that position. And I knew that she was doing the work on a contract basis. So I could hire her for a period of time to come in and do the work and get me focused. And the first, and I was just like, well, I'm going to make this investment. It's going to hurt, but I promise you, I probably made, in that first month, I probably 10x my investment in the first month. And that was before she even really got onboarded. But it was a matter of telling her my vision, and then she put it into easily digestible steps that we were able to implement, telling her what the people that were working for me were supposed to be doing and what they were actually doing, and then having her come in and organize how we communicated so that everybody got on the same page. And that month, things started working like a well-oiled machine. I couldn't afford not to bring her on. And I think as a creative, you have that, again, back to the same thing I talked about in interior design, you have the notion that you have to do it all, because this is my business, this is my vision, this is my, outcome. But the reality is I was never meant to do this all on my own. If I want to scale it now on a smaller scale, I could do it and I could do everything and I could, do a halfway decent job at it, but I'm never going to be able to do it to the potential that the business wants to grow into. And the business is busting at the seams, and how dare I deny it the space to grow, so bringing in the right people helps me to focus on the things that bring me joy and that are my genius. And then I allow them to do the same. The people on my team, they all have a genius that they work in. And I try to make sure to keep an eye on it so that I keep them in that space. It's easy enough for me to say, okay, I have a person that does social media, email, customer service, and I have somebody that does marketing, have somebody that does strategy. It's easy enough for me to say, okay, well, the person that does the customer service, email, and social media is a little overworked right now, so let me move some of her stuff over here. But that's not, what I'm moving may not be the lane that marketing person is in. So don't overload her with stuff that was never the intention for her to work on, because now you're working in a space where you're trying to force her to be the customer service rep, and that's not her job. It's not like what people would say, oh, well, that's not why I was hired. It's not what my job was. It's truly not your lane. It's truly not your genius. It's not your area of genius. So I'm not going to get the best out of you. So it's better for me to reevaluate what that other person is doing that may be causing her to be overworked or overstressed, and then decide, does that require me to have another person, or does that require me to take something else off that better suits that that marketing person. So it's an interesting game that you're kind of always playing to keep everything balanced, but it's a necessary part of that game, and that strategy person helps me do that. It's not just, I don't just rely on my own understanding. I rely on, what are the goals that we're trying to achieve, and these are the people that are working on those goals. How can we better leverage what we have, going on already in-house.
Yeah. So I love every bit of what you said, because we do need people to balance us. We need people who are going to come in and be that counter to our energy, because, we are good at this thing and somebody else is good at the other part. So that was, a takeaway that I got from what you said. Another takeaway was the investment part. I feel like we don't always understand the importance of investment, because yes, those price tags might look kind of steep when you're sitting up there looking at it from purely a financial standpoint. But when you think about the return of that investment, and how much you're holding yourself back. So, I talk to people, that I know in the industry, and just casual conversation among colleagues. And I'm like, oh, well, how are you doing? How's your business going? And I often get, oh, this is happening, but I'm just trying to figure out this, or, I love the business, but the other side, I love the balloons, but the business side, and so then I'm like, okay, well, what exactly is the issue? And we get to the bottom of what the issue is. And then I'm like, I'm a problem solver, I'm solution driven. So I'm like, okay, so this is what you need to do. And whether that's me just giving them advice or me, pointing them to a product or service, then it's like, okay, I'm going to work on it. And then I talk to that person 6 months later and a year later and 2 years later, and they're still struggling with that same thing. And it's like, if you're not, I'm sure that you have lost so much money not having stepped forward and solving that problem.
Right. Exactly.
Because you're not in the capacity to grow and scale the way that you need to. And you don't have that clarity, because that was the other takeaway I took from what you said was that, even before you put this person in place, just that process of getting the clarity increased your business, and once she got there, then of course is increasing it even more so. But having that clarity around the business makes a huge difference, because a lot of us can't answer basic questions about our business.
Yeah. You got to know your numbers.
Why
you got to know your marketing.
Right. I'm like, so, I need to get in front of different clients. Who?
Who is your client?
Right. And then it's crickets, or it's, the ones that have money. Okay. Yes, it helps if they have money, but what is making them open up their purse and give that money
to you? Exactly.
To you.
Because if all you know because that's going to make a difference. Yeah.
If all you know about them is they have money, then maybe they don't feel like they have that know, like, and trust.
Right.
To spend business, to do business, spend their money with you. So I think it's just, us, especially as creatives, a lot of times everybody's not that weird bird like me and you that has that kind of other side. But as creatives, we have to know where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. And, they always say hire your weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it relieves stress, honestly.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I don't have to worry about that part anymore. I don't have to do that thing anymore. Of course, you're going to need to always have your pulse on it, to make sure it's being done the way you expect, but you don't have to do it.
Right.
It's a game changer.
Right. It's like, so wait, what? Like, I had an accountant come in because I was, using QuickBooks, and then something went wrong with it. And so she does bookkeeping and everything as well. And I had waited to get somebody because there was some glitch in there. And I was like, well, I need to figure this out first because I want to give them the clean numbers. And she was like, no, we do that. And I was like, wait, what?
Yep.
I'm like, wait, what? So I could just get this to you and you do. And she was like, yeah, we do that. And she gave me her prices. And I'm like,
that's the best money spent, isn't it? A good accountant.
Right. I was like, ma'am, here, you can take all my.
Look, and I told you I have an accounting degree and 22 years of finance. I do not do my own books because it doesn't bring me joy. And it doesn't help my business for me to struggle through making sure that my numbers are in every month and that my, and now if anybody asks me for my financials for the last 3 years, I press a button and I print a report,
right.
And I know that it's right.
Oh my Jesus. So, I am a firm believer of investing in business and business education. Yeah. And so I'm in a financial group. And one of the things was each month we have to submit our numbers.
Yeah.
And because of this glitch, it was like, I'm having to go and do surgery on these numbers because they're not clean numbers. And then she emailed me and was like, I'm finished. And then that next month I was like, hit print. And I was just like, oh my God, like I love this,
Yeah, and I review them with the team every month. If I have questions, they file my taxes every month for sales and use tax. That's huge, because if you're not doing that, you're leaving yourself open to all kinds of issues. So those are the things that, that's a prime example of, invest in your business and it'll pay you back.
Yes.
That's a prime example of it. That's one of the costs where people are like, oh, if I pay for an accountant, if I pay for a lawyer, you don't necessarily see that as revenue generating. But when you need it,
it is.
It more than pays for itself.
It does. It really does.
The consistency of having it done. I haven't, everything that I apply for, if it's PPP, EIDL, grants, a loan, or whatever, they all want to see my numbers. And and anytime I talk to somebody about the business, when I'm trying to apply for something, or if I have an interview for something, they'll ask me about my numbers, and I know exactly what those numbers say, because I'm not just giving it to the accountant to handle it. I'm letting them process the work, and then we come back together and we discuss it. And I know where the business stands. I know what my sales look like. I know what my average order values are. I know what my outstanding debt looks like. So all of this is not an opportunity for you to give stuff away. It's an opportunity for you to bring in somebody with the bench strength to get it done, and the know-how to teach you what they've done. Not so that you can do it, but so that you know what your business standing is.
And I love that too, of having that understanding, at least at a base level of understanding what you are, one, who you're hiring, and two, what you're getting as an end product. Because I do see a lot of people where, okay, now, I'm trying to, coach them through something, and I'm looking at what they have, and I'm like, so wait, you spend what with who for what? But it's because they didn't have the understanding of what to look for when they're, to have that base understanding. If I go in a car dealership, I don't know jack about a car, but I know enough to know if somebody telling me something crazy. I'm like, no, that don't sound right.
That don't work.
That don't sound right. Let me, I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna come back, kind of feel. But if you don't have that, that base knowledge, but also if you're working with somebody and you don't feel like they're giving you that return too, of that they are giving you the understanding, so that you can use that information in a useful way in your business. Because like you said, you don't have to do it, but you need to have that understanding so that you know where your business is, and is your business growing? Is it on track with your strategic plan?
Right. Exactly. I love when creatives talk real business. I love it.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm like, I switch it up on you. Real quick. I'm like, no. I mean, I do, don't hold up a bag of glitter while I try to talk about business, but I can go into another zone, and I had someone call me this morning to ask me a question about something, and I had to stop them, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm about to answer you, but I'm answering you from a businesswoman's perspective. Because we all have our emotions, we have our, feelings, we have all of that. But at the end of the day, we have to operate as businesswomen. And, and then again, sometimes that may not be your lane. You may not be, you may have to hire for that. You may want to be the creative of the business, and you want someone else to be the, CEO of the business. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. It happens every day.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You go and take creative lead, and you have someone else that is making sure that it all makes sense business-wise.
Right. Yep. Yep. And I think that that's a mature decision that business owners have to make from time to time. And I actually applaud it, because you're doing what's best for the business, not your ego.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. So what is one big misconception you think that people have about being a creative professional?
We've talked about a lot of things that I think could be considered a misconception. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I have tried to circumvent by, talking to young people as they are picking their career paths, is that creative people are always struggling artists. And that to me is a huge misconception. And not only that, it's detrimental to the, the field of creativity, because we've lost a lot of creative minds, because they were brought up in households where they weren't supported by other creatives, and they were brought up to believe that their creative aspirations weren't enough. So that to me is probably one of the biggest, biggest misconceptions, and something that I would go into. I haven't been since, before the pandemic, but I would go into high schools and talk to some of the entrepreneurial classes, and give them, guidance on picking their creative careers, and give them guidance on writing a business plan, and give them confidence in being able to stick up for what they believe is their path in life. You see, so it's so different now, though, because of the advent of like Pinterest and YouTube and social media, where we can show them more than we can tell them. You get a chance to really see some of the great balloon artists, that are out there, and what they're doing. You can see some of the, designers, interior designers, artists, graphic artists, but there was a time when it was shunned upon. And I know for me, I think a lot of the reasons why I was in, and a lot of reasons why I went into accounting and not marketing or, graphic design or something like that, was because my parents were both creative. My mother stuck with her creativity, and my father, went against it and went into corporate, went into government. But I knew I had creative, tendencies from a very young age, and I was always kind of pushed into, the books, pushed into. So, growing up in that, I knew that I was choosing accounting because that's what was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish I had someone that had more influence over my choices, that could let me, feel comfortable in following that path, because the tenacity that I have in anything that I do is going to result in me being successful. But if you constantly tell somebody that being creative isn't a real job choice, then that person is going to choose something that's more, that's more suited towards what a real job looks like. So that's probably the biggest misconception, and one that I hope that we continue to, chop away at, with some of the things that we're doing. The podcast is an awesome way to do it, because you give people an opportunity to access the knowledge and kind of see what people are doing in creative fields that are owning businesses. And part of my job as an entrepreneur, as a creative, is to continue to tell the story, and hope that it influences somebody enough, to get them to make the choice that's best for them, and best for, the future that they hold.
Yeah, I think that I totally agree with you. I think that we need to be more vocal about that.
Mhm.
For the young people, but for some of our people that have been in the industries for a very long time, because I feel like people won't pay for, quote unquote art.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hear people so many times, when I go to conferences and different stuff like that, and they're looking at these new designs, they're looking at all these different things, and they're like, yeah, but nobody in my market will pay for this. And I'm
Mm.
just like, is
I
it
think
that
that comes
nobody
back to,
will
again,
pay
know
for
your
it,
customer.
but is it that you don't have the strategy behind it?
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's what, like you were talking about talking to the youth, and that I think is what the message that they need to understand, that you can be, like you say, your tenacity is going to make you successful at whatever you do. Um, you have to believe it. One, you have to believe that you can, but
Yep.
two, you have to put some solid business principles behind it. Any industry can be a profitable industry with the right strategy.
Right. Right.
And, because I remember when I first, left my job, it was like, you did what? You, or you still doing balloons? Uh-huh. They still paying the bill. So I'm still doing balloons. And then, as the business progressed and grew, it was like, wait, what? Like,
How much did you make from balloons?
right. Like, you made what? Doing
Like,
balloons?
yeah. People,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I did, because I made sure that it was a business. I made sure that, as much as I knew that I had this creative side and I love having the creative outlet, but I knew that, I was not interested in being a starving artist. That is not.
Yeah, that's not my ministry.
I feel like that's not my ministry. I like it, but I don't like it like that. Like,
No, I was never meant to be a starving artist. And I think
right.
that had a lot to do with my choices, because at 12 years old, I was telling people I have to be rich because I like nice things.
Right.
And if you're constantly telling me that no one in a creative field can be rich, then I'm going to make a choice that I'm not really, that doesn't really appeal to my, to my soul. I'm making a choice that appeals to what your interpretation of success is, so yeah, it made a huge difference. And I would never go back and say I, made the wrong choice and wasted any time in my life, because I really feel like it has made me a better person to have both sides and have both experiences. But I also know that I have an obligation, because of my experiences, to let people know that there's an option. There's an option. It doesn't have to come from, it doesn't have to come from the corporate, track, or the more accepted track. You can follow your dream in creativity. You just have to be strategic about it.
Yeah. And I think, as far as like just the whole idea of following your dream, one of the things that I try to get across to people is success is not the same for everyone.
Right.
So your idea of success is also different. Not
Right.
saying that you can't be traditionally successful, you can, but your idea may be different. For me, Profit in Pajamas is all about the fact that I really like to spend most of my day in my pajamas. Like, that's real. That's not, it's not a gimmick. It's real. That's where it came from. And so for me, I may make different choices than the next person, because time freedom is important to me. So I could, I know how to market and brand and put myself in positions to, I could, fill up the books if that's that, but that's not my ideal of success. Now, I do have sales goals and, I have all of those things, but the way my business is structured is based on what my ideal success story, what I want that to look like.
I love that.
And so, I want people to realize it don't have to look like what somebody else wants it to look like.
Right. And it doesn't have to look like someone else's business. Like, a lot of people will compare themselves like, oh, I should have been here by now, or I should have been able to do this, or how come they're getting all this kind of exposure, or what have you. There are two different measures. That's two different measures of success. Is that what strategy you had was to be in all of those publications? Did you have a strategy set up to do that? Did you have a strategy set up to meet those sales goals that person did? And so once you decide what your measure of success is, then strategize to get there, you know.
Right. Definitely. I wholeheartedly agree. And it's like, and again, don't get so caught up in the hype of what other people are doing, like, because
it's easy to, because of social media nowadays and
social
things like
media.
that. And, but yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be. You never know what someone did to get where they are.
No. And you don't know if you want that. Like, you may not want that life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know some people that are like wildly successful and they are, constantly on the go and doing this. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Right. But that's what they want to do, and that is, and they are reaching their success. Yeah. I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm reaching my success, and that is okay. And we have to learn to be okay with that, and also learn that social media is a highlight reel.
Oh, it is, because they're not telling you the struggle. There's nobody out there talking about their struggle.
No, like nobody's on there like, well, at 3:00 this morning, I was crying because this thing would not go right. Payroll. I didn't. Right. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out when will this sell? Like, nobody is on social media telling that story. So you are, you're comparing your real life to somebody else's highlights.
Right.
And you're doing yourself a disservice.
In so many ways, that is exactly right.
So I'm gonna go to our wrap-up questions, because I know we can sit here and talk all day long, and we're like in total synergy mode. Like, I mean, because you say something, and I'm like, well, I have a story just like. So my first wrap-up question is always, tell me about your favorite pajamas. And I'm like, from you, this is like the ultimate question.
My favorite pajamas have a Bamblu tag on. So yeah, I love the Bamblu product. I am not only the owner, founder, but I'm a fan. And I think that the product that I've created makes for an easy transition into the relaxation mode of your day. Oh, and yeah, the fabric, from the fabric to the fit, I love it. If I had to pick my favorite style of Bamblu pajamas, it would probably be, I think it's probably going to be what I have on, which is the nightshirt. So the nightshirt is meant to just kind of, fall down the skin, no confinement, no, nothing tight. Of course, the fabric is our signature fabric. This particular fabric has a little bit of a heavier weight to it. We measure a weight in like GSMs. And this one, I think I went with like a 230, which is a little heavier than where we started. And the thought behind that was I didn't want it to be too light, because it is a dress. And I wanted it to kind of, kind of, when it fell, I wanted it to fall completely and not sway as much. And that's hard to kind of translate into what I want the fabric to do. But there was a purpose and a point behind the weight of this. I love the fact that it has a little bit of on the edge, it has a little bit of a scallop around the leg. So it kind of gives a little nod to the sexy while still being ultra, comfy. It also is appropriate, if you want to wear it around the house and, not have to worry about putting on a bathrobe or the like, because it is, a decent length. It's kind of mid-thigh, mid to lower thigh. So this is definitely one of my favorites. There's so many that are there's so many that are favorites for different reasons. And my biggest issue I have is like if I go away for the weekend or for like I'm going on vacation this week, and I always pack too many pajamas. My husband's like, "Do you have something to wear out?" Yeah, no, but I got some pajamas.
Right. All right. That's pretty much what matters. But I'm biased. So. But if you're on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, we are twinning today, so we're both wearing the the hibernation
It's
mode
hibernation mode
activated.
activated.
We're wearing the hibernation mode activated nightgown, and I can concur. This is like very comfy. I'm glad that you kind of mentioned that it gives like a little hint of sexy. It's not like, vivacious, but it just gives a little hint because
A little bit, a
falls
little
just
bit.
it falls just right. It's not like you just like, you feel comfortable wearing it, like out, not out, but out and about in the house. You feel comfortable wearing it without feeling like you're like giving too much, but it also, give a little hint of,
it'll get a second look. It'll be like, hey,
you get a little glance where you're going right quick. So it is definitely, that comfort is there. Like, it's like you said, as soon as you slide into a pair of your pajamas, oh my goodness, it's just like it takes you to another, like you just relax. And I mean, I can't stand when like I'm like, I gotta get dressed. I have to, like, because the material, like, it's almost like it feels like second skin once you've had it on for a while. You don't feel like you
don't feel confined, you don't feel itchy, you don't feel like your skin is,
none of that. You just feel absolutely just comfortable. It just it because I can't sing y'all feel through the airwaves. But just imagine the experience that you get when you go to a spa.
Right.
It is that experience.
There's a level of caressing that this fabric does to the skin.
Is that experience. So yes, absolutely. So, all right, next question, because I'm fanning now. Next question. My time freedom allows me to.
My time freedom allows me to be a caregiver. So I took my mom in. She has a brain injury, and she's not self-sufficient anymore. So I took her into my home in 2017, about the time that I started Bamblu, and being able to be the master of my day and organize, my every hour allows me to be able to, fill in the gap when my mother needs care. So she lives with me, but we have, things set up, different nurses and programs and things like that. But it allows me to be more flexible and be there when she needs me. So I get to take her to all of her doctor's appointments, which is really important to me. I get to monitor, her medication and how she's adjusting, to new medicines and things like that. So that was really important to me. I think as an adult, a younger adult, taking on a young adult, my mother is not old by any means, but she's had this brain injury since I was 10. So when I was 10, I didn't know what it was to have to then mother your mother. But as an adult, as I started to lose a lot of family members that had stood in the gap, and it was my turn, it became very clear to me that this is what life is about. It's not about, how many hours I'm going to put in at the office. It's not about, the things that just turned out to be trivial, at the end of the day. It's about how do you love the ones that you love, so being able to have my own time freedom allows me to be there when I'm needed and how I'm needed.
Okay, that is absolutely beautiful. And
thank you.
Yeah, I've been in the caregiver role before, so I totally understand like what that entails, and it does make a difference to be able to to be there.
Yeah.
To be able to be there. So that is like absolutely beautiful. Okay, so what is the best advice you would give to someone who is seeking a profits in pajamas lifestyle?
Oh, I think we gave it. We gave so much.
We did. We gave a lot.
We did. I think the one thing that I would go back to, which we did talk about already, but the one thing I would really focus on is be your own investor in the beginning. You don't have to. It's nice to be able to be in your pajamas and dictating your 24 hours and what it looks like and how much you're able to dedicate to the business. But when you first get started, do not be afraid to lean into your day job, to let it invest in your, in your plans, your forever plans. There's no shame in being, having a corporate job. There's more shame in not, not being honest about what you need. So be honest about, do you need the, the paycheck in order to fund the business? Do you need the insurance, medical insurance, in order to make sure that you can stay focused on the business and not have to worry about, hospital bills and things like that. So there's a lot of benefit. Do you think that you've gotten all that you can get from the day job in terms of understanding strategy, understanding, how to balance expenses and people? I mean, it's an opportunity to really learn people, and when you're going to need to build a team to support you. So what better way to learn about how that works than, getting it from, a corporate environment. So don't be afraid or ashamed of relying on that corporate job a little longer than you intended to make sure that you can, shore up the business as it grows.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Because we're not coming to pay your light bill when you quit the job.
Lights got shut off. You're going to have to work in the dark.
Right. We're not doing that. So no, I think the plan is important. And I think we see people quitting and this and that, but just like everything else, we talked about it before, you don't know what that backstory is.
Right.
So they may have quit and it not been a good idea. They may have had a plan. And you saw Mad Day when they quit, but you didn't see the plan that went ahead of being able to quit.
Right.
Okay, so tell the people how to get in touch with you. And I know you mentioned, a special offer. So tell the people, how they can get into the Bamblu life, because I'm telling y'all need to be a part of this lifestyle.
So you can get in touch with me on my website, which is www.bamblu.co. It's BAMBLU.co. You can also get in touch with us on social media. We're on all social media channels at Bamblu Sleep. We also have a community on Facebook. It's Bamblu Sleep Lounge, where we talk about all things sleep and relaxation. We often have in-depth conversations about new products that are coming out. We talk about how did you sleep last night. So there's a lot of great community activities going on in there. And then, of course, you can always, I mentioned, follow us on, if you wanted to contact us, have any questions. We do offer a lot of expertise and, sleep expertise, things that you have questions about. If you have questions about the products, you can always, again, contact us on our website. And I did want to extend an offer. So we wanted to extend an offer to the group. If you go to bamblu.co or www.bamblu.co and you put in the code profits N with the letter N, PJ, profits MPJ, and you'll get a 20% discount on your order. So, and that will be set up for, I guess we'll have to decide.
The air date for this is going to be Wednesday, which is the 16th. Okay. So starting on the 16th, that'll be set up, and we'll also put in the show notes the details so that you guys can have access. So just look in the show notes for this episode, and you'll be able to have access to it. And I'm just telling y'all, like, it's just a whole nother experience. I'm just like, my old pajamas, like they
throw
just
them away.
So sad. Like, but
and we encourage you to sign up for the email, sign up for the text messages, because while you get the 20% off on with this code, stay in touch with us, because we are always doing something. And we do a live broadcast on Thursdays where we offer some kind of discount or sale. and clearances. We do a lot of stuff. And then we also showcase a lot of the new products that are coming out. So, join the community, get involved. We have a lot of fun. And I love, talking about all things sleep and relaxation, care, self-care, things like that. So would love to connect with you guys and give you some of my experiences in that realm.
Yes, please connect. I went on one of the lives a couple of weeks ago. They got some really cool stuff that's coming out. I'm just sitting here waiting. I'm like, okay, I legit at this point have a fund on the side. Like, I'm like, one of the ways that I channel my creative energy is I have to bribe myself. So I say, if I do this, then I can have this. So if I sell this, if I hit this sales number, then I can get this. So it's like lately this has been
so glad to be a part of your incentive program. So glad to be a part of your incentive program.
Right. So you're incentivizing me. Because I'm like, so, it started with like 2 pairs, and then it just has kind of been growing and growing and growing. And I'm just like,
see, and now you can get rid of those old
right. I'm just like, I mean, y'all looking a little sad over there. Y'all can't quite stand up.
You can use that. You can use that stuff to paint in. Or...
Right. I'm like, you can't stand up to this experience. Like, and the last trip, you said about packing, the last trip I went on, I was like, what if these people lose my pajamas? Like, I'm like, do I need to pack these in my carry-on?
Believe that they did not lose your pajamas. They got your pajamas.
No, they didn't. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I was packing several pairs, and I was like, so.
Oh, yeah. I get that all the time. Usually people that have grown daughters or sisters or best friends, they will end up saying that my pajamas came up missing. I'm like, oh yeah, who got your pajamas.
There's a couple of things I do not play about. I don't play about my pajamas. I don't play about my pens. I have a pen fetish. I love they're very specific. Oh, yeah. And I was at a meeting one time. I had a whole set of pens. I was like picking which color I wanted to write with. And this lady was like, oh, can I borrow a pen? And I put those back, and I dug in my purse, and I found like a pen from a hotel, and I was like, here. You can't, I don't know you like that. You can't touch
no ma'am.
You can't touch my pens. Like, no offense, miss, but
yeah, I get it.
But no, so I totally understand that. I'm so glad that you came on as a guest. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm excited for, I'm excited for my community to become a part of your community, because I feel like we all, we coexist quite well. If you're about that, profit in pajamas life, then these are the pajamas that you need to be profiting in.
Right.
Let's be clear. But yeah, I want to thank you for being on. Again, I'm Coach Danni D. I am the owner of Workflow, and we help people to build luxury brands. And we do that by connecting them to their ideal client, making sure that they have strategic plans in place, and making sure that they are clear on what their own goals are, so that you can make sure your business is in alignment with those goals. So, for me, profit in pajamas is, a lifestyle, because I specifically like pajamas, but that lifestyle itself just means going for your success story, whatever that looks like, and making sure that your business goals, your life goals, and all of those things are in alignment with what that success story looks like. But first, you have to know what that story is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then we can set goals around it. So right now I am promoting my goal setting workshop. So I have a goal setting workshop that's coming up on March 27th, and that's going to be focusing on our second quarter goals. What do those look like? How do we make sure that they're meaningful goals, and also making sure that we have a system to make sure that those goals are getting completed, because, we make New Year's resolutions, and, they're usually done with by Valentine's Day. We set goals, but because we don't have any meaning behind those goals, they're just sitting there somewhere. So let's put them in action. Let's put, intentionality behind it. So if you are interested in signing up, you can go to coachdannid.com, and I'll have that in the notes as well. And you can sign up for the workshop on the 27th, and we can get you, set up to be prepared for your second quarter. Also, if you are a VIP, there is a VIP option that includes additional support calls. So we'll do some group accountability calls between this goal setting and the third quarter goal setting, so that we make sure that we are staying on track. So I want to thank you guys for listening in. I want to thank Angela again for being such a wonderful guest. And I want y'all to have a beautiful, beautiful day, and go out and do something to play big in your business.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for listening to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at coachdannid.com.